Hello, everyone, and welcome to Slash Film Daily for August 30th, 2017. On today's episode, we'll be talking about a Wonder Woman bonus scene, the air date of the final season of Game of Thrones, Apple's attempts to bring 4K movies to Apple TV, and a Blade Runner 2049 short film that will surely inform your viewing of that movie. On today's show, I am joined by Ben Pearson.
Hey, what's up?
And Bradford Oman.
Hey, that's me.
And of course, this is Peter Sciretta. Let's go right over to the water cooler. Brad, you haven't been on for a little while. What have you been up to?
Nothing too exciting, but there was one thing that I was very happy to receive in the mail. As we've talked about before rather extensively, I love The Big Sick. Who doesn't love The Big Sick?
It is the best reviewed movie of the summer, Rotten Tomatoes, according to Rotten Tomatoes.
Right, yeah, and deservedly so. It's fantastic. If you haven't seen The Big Sick, it'll be out on home video in September, so make sure you go out of your way to see it if you didn't see it in theaters.
Basically, you screwed up. You have a second chance. Home video.
Yeah,
do it.
Exactly. And so I had a quote that was all over the marketing for this movie that I was really excited about because it was a movie that I absolutely adored. But there was never a poster that came out that actually had my quote on it. There was, TV spots and online ads and stuff. But if I ever have a quote that ends up on a print ad, I like to have it and frame it just to keep it for me. And there was a big cardboard standee that was used in a TV ad where they had testimonials from a crowd who saw the movie in Chicago, where Kumail and Emily did a Q&A afterwards. And I actually got a picture with both of them in front of the standee with them pointing at my quote on it, which was awesome. But I found out from Lionsgate that only existed in the form of that giant standee. They never made a poster print of it. But I did find out from a friend of mine who lives in Australia that they got a poster down there that actually had my quote on it and Dan Casey's quote from Nerdist from when we saw it at Sundance. And so she went to a movie theater that had it on display and asked her if she could have it when they were done with it. And they gave her an extra copy they had, and she shipped it to me. And I just got it in the mail today and framed it so I could put it up on my wall. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Shipping something like that from Australia must cost some serious money.
It actually wasn't too bad. It only cost about $35 American.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
I have not been up to much since the last time I talked to you, but I just want to mention one thing. Memorizing a deck of 52 playing cards is extremely hard, and a lot harder than it sounds. That's all I got to say.
Wait, what does that mean?
I've been trying the last 24 hours to memorize the order of a deck of 52 playing cards.
What do you mean? What do you mean the order? It's like ace 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 jack.
Well, no,
queen.
they're I don't want to open the curtain too much because you're not supposed to give away secrets as a magician. But there's some tricks that require certain orders of cards, and if you memorize that order of cards, it's a lot of work. A lot of work. I think Penn Jillette once said it, that most of the great magic is the magician doing 100 times more work than you would ever expect a person to do. And that's really how things are done. So I'm trying to memorize a specific order of playing cards to accomplish certain things, which I will not say because I think I probably said too much. I'm probably kicked out of the Magic Castle as we speak. So, yes, but it's extremely hard. That's all I got to say. So if anybody has any tips on memorizing 52 playing cards, please send it to peter@slashfilm.com. Before we get into the news, I wanted to make a correction. Yesterday, I mentioned offhandedly that The Defenders is probably 10 to 12 episodes. That's what most Netflix TV series are. It's actually only 8. So it's a shorter season, which actually gives it less of a reason to have that kind of killing time that it does in the first 2 episodes. They should have just got right to it. But yes, anyways, a couple people emailed me, so I wanted to correct that on there. Let's jump into the news. Warner Brothers released I want to say deleted scene, but it isn't really a deleted scene. They're calling it a bonus scene for Wonder Woman on online in anticipation of the home video release.
So Lucy Davis, who plays the character of Etta Candy, is one of the main characters in this bonus scene, and this was actually it came about after the movie wrapped filming. So Patty Jenkins got the cast of supporting players together to film this extra sequence, and it's basically the character of Etta Candy meeting up with Samir, Charlie, and Chief Nappy at the bar that they were in the movie, and they're basically talking about a new top secret mission that they have where the powers that be want them to find a very old, very powerful artifact and deliver it to the Americans. So we're not exactly sure what that is. This clip, this behind-the-scenes bonus clip, is only 30 seconds long. But Peter, I know you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, I think we do know what it is. I mean, it's kind of like one of those, almost like a end credit scene in a Marvel movie. And it's weird because Warner Brothers keeps on doing this. They did this for Batman vs. Superman, and then they decided not to put it on the movie, and then they released it online the day after it came out in theaters. With Lex Luthor and I believe Steppenwolf.
Like Steppenwolf, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And same thing with this. They're doing it here. This should be a scene that should have been played after the credits, but they don't want to look like they're copying Marvel, so they put it on the Blu-ray, and it looks weird because it's only 30 seconds. But what they're talking about, I think, is Justice League is all about. Is all about Steppenwolf is trying to get the mother boxes that are all around the Earth. It's kind of like the Infinity Stones of the DC universe, and I think that's what they're talking about here.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But it's just strange that they're taking this approach because they don't want to look like they're copying Marvel. Guys, just do the end credits scene. This is just stupid.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, there have been plenty of movies that aren't Marvel superhero movies that have done end credits tags since Marvel has sort of repopularized that as a thing. So it's not like there's no really like showing any weakness by doing that, you know? I don't know. It's a weird choice.
Yeah, I think it's just more confusing to do it this way, and especially the way Zack Snyder did it, releasing it the Monday after the opening weekend. It was like, what is going on here? Next in news, Game of Thrones. The last season just ended. The final season is coming up. We now have some word of when to expect that final season. Brad, what do we know?
It sounds like we're in for a long wait as winter gets closer and closer and closer.
Wait, winter is not here yet?
I mean, technically, it's not, right? Like,
winter has come. Winter has come.
How many seasons did it take for winter to come?
Wait a minute. Isn't winter only in, like, part of Westeros right now?
I think it's probably fair to say that winter has arrived because in the finale we saw snow fall on King's Landing, and I think that's the capital of Westeros. So I think it's probably okay to admit that winter is finally here. I just want to mention real quick, if you guys hear any rumbling in the background, apparently people chose right now to start jackhammering outside of my house. So I'm going to try to minimize that as much as possible by muting when I'm not talking. But if anybody hears any weird noises in the background, apologies for that. You'll just have to stick with us today.
Yes.
Yeah, it's totally not somebody being murdered at Ben's house.
Okay, so Brad, what do we know about this final season?
Well, so we just finished season 7, but of course everybody is wondering when we're going to see the final season. Game of Thrones is coming to an end. There's supposed to be a 6-episode 8th season. However, it sounds like we'll be waiting a while because the episodes may not start airing until 2019. The 8th season is supposed to start shooting in October, but it won't finish until August of 2018 at the latest, which means they likely wouldn't be able to finish episodes until around 2019 for them to start airing at the earliest.
By the way, that's 10 months to shoot 6 episodes. That is pretty epic.
That's true, but we have to remember what we heard from the sound designer at Con of Thrones, and that's they are considering making every single episode of the 8th season a feature-length episode, which is basically what we just got for the season finale, which was an 82-minute episode. So essentially, you're looking at HBO shooting roughly 5 or 6 movies over the span of those 10 months, which isn't bad when you think about the fact that, you know, most studios don't make, you know, that many movies in a short period of time with the same cast and crew and all that jazz. So, well, at the very least, we might be waiting 16 months for the final season to begin, but it could end up being more than that depending on the post-production schedule. Apparently they haven't finalized the production timeline yet, so that could change. It could be different. It could be sped up. But it looks like we'll definitely be waiting a while before Game of Thrones returns. But we also have to remember that this is kind of becoming the new normal when it comes to big cable shows like this. Westworld is taking some extra time between the first and second season. Curb Your Enthusiasm is one of those shows that can come and go as it pleases. There was once like a 2-year break between seasons, and then between the 8th and 9th season, it's been 6 years, I think. So it's been HBO is kind of just letting their creators do what they want and take as much time as they need to get the show right, which is something that is fine by me.
I just want to impress on you that if this airs later, not in the first few weeks of 2019, this means that you could start right now watching Game of Thrones 1 episode a week, and you would not watch the whole series up until now before the next season airs.
You wouldn't, or you would?
You wouldn't, because there's 67 episodes, I think.
So you just have to watch a couple episodes every few weeks.
I think you'd only watch one, because I think that would get you to like February or something, right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just insane to me. But let's move on. Ben, you've been writing a lot about Apple's fight against Hollywood over the trying to bring 4K movies to the Apple television, and it now seems like Hollywood is clashing with them over the price. What do we know about this?
Yeah, so Apple has been sort of not feuding, but I guess engaged in a little bit of a battle with Hollywood over a couple different things. One of which was home video rentals and like the shrinking release windows as far as home video rentals go. They're trying to get $30 to $50 home video rentals of like major releases in homes a couple weeks after the film's debut in theaters. But this is a separate thing. This is Apple is looking to, I think they're going to announce a new 4K capable and like streaming HDR capable Apple TV coming up on September 12th. And Apple wants to make 4K movies available for purchase through the Apple TV for $19.99. But they are encountering some pushback from the studios, who a few of which want to add a $5 or even a $10 surcharge on top of that. So it makes sense, really, when you sort of step back and look at the business and what's going on right now, where studios are, trying to juice as much, from these profits as they can while they still have a home video market, because we're very much in a state of flux right now as far as that goes. And they saw what happened when the DVD market sort of tanked. So I don't really blame them for trying to get as much as they can for the content that they're putting out. Apple, of course, is more inclined to offer lower prices because they are in it more for the long term. They want to bring more customers in, and they think that their profits will rise in the long game, basically. But Hollywood executives don't always have the foresight to think that way. And again, with the devalued DVD market, it's hard to blame them there. The whole thing with this really is that the current prices of 4K movies are already around $30 anyway. I think The Verge, when they wrote about this, said that Wonder Woman is going to be like $35, but Guardians Volume 2 is at $29.99 right now. So even if the studios get their way in this particular fight, that would mean that Apple TV users would just be paying the same price that, people could currently go out and buy something at Best Buy or Amazon or whatever. So it doesn't really seem like that big of a thing to me. But I don't know, Peter, you have an Apple TV, right?
I have an Apple TV. Am I the only one here that has an Apple TV?
No, I have an Apple TV. I just don't buy a lot of movies through it.
Oh, okay.
See, I buy most of my movies through, or not buy, rent rather. I've realized that renting a movie for $3.99 and buying a movie for $15 to $20, you need to see the movie like 4 or 5 times to make that worth it. My math is bad. Obviously, my memorization, my skills memorizing stuff is bad, and my math is bad. And usually I don't have enough time now. I mean, back in the day, I used to, watch movies on repeat. And I know, Brad, you do that. You put stuff on in the background. But I just can't do that anymore. I need to, be actually watching it. And I don't have the time for that, so I just rent nowadays. But what I'm really wondering is, do you guys have 4K televisions? Because I don't think anybody I know, aside from maybe Jeff Kanata, has a 4K television.
I don't, and I wish I did, because I shot some stuff for that New Zealand video that we talked about on an old episode of this podcast. I shot a lot of that with 4K capable equipment, and that video looked amazing, just like watching the footage back on my MacBook Pro, but I don't have a TV to, blow it up and keep that same quality. So yeah, that's one of those I guess, like, I don't know what the term would be, but yeah, if I could afford it, I would go for it.
See, I'm skeptical, unless you are so far away from your TV, I'm skeptical that your eye can perceive. I mean, unless you are closer to the television, I'm skeptical if the 4K would matter much, because you're so far away.
Yeah, usually, it depends a lot on your setup.
I'm wondering, there's been talk for the longest time, even when Steve Jobs was alive, of Apple creating their own television set. And I'm wondering if this has, we haven't heard any rumblings recently, so that's maybe not true, but I'm wondering if this has something to do with that. Because if Apple were to release a TV set, I think it would make sense for them to have something that could, something that would make sense for it in conjunction with it. So if you had a TV set that could play 4K movies, and you release 4K movies on this new Apple TV that you could buy and download, something that I don't think is possible with the current televisions. You have to buy them on 4K Blu-rays, I think, for the most part. I think that would be a win for them, but I don't know. I'm not going to be buying movies for $30 each. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I would have to watch a movie how many times to make that worth it? I don't know. How many times is 4 going to 30?
7? 28?
This is riveting.
Riveting radio.
Wait, 20. Oh, 7 times. Okay, I thought you were saying 28 times.
Let's do more math. This is so fun.
Yes, I know. Anyways, so Brad's going to buy it, and he's going to buy all the movies. Brad.
I actually already have a 4K TV. I just don't have a 4K capable player or anything like that.
So does that help you in any way? Does it up-res your Blu-rays?
No, it's just I bought it at a time when I was looking for a new TV. I figured if I was going to get one, I might as well get one that was going to be 4K capable. And then by the time I get around to wanting / needing a 4K, format player, then I would be prepared for it. But it's a nice TV, and yeah, it was a good price.
I think Netflix streams stuff in 4K. Have you had any experience with that?
No, I haven't tried to do any of that.
Oh, okay.
I should say that I have like a projector, and I think it's like something like 150 inch. It's obnoxiously big. It's like a small movie screen big, and it's a 2K projector, and obviously I'm screening. I think HD is 1K, right? I think. now I'm talking out my butt, so about stuff I don't know, but I could benefit from a 4K TV at that large of a presentation, but 4K projectors are still not affordable, or not in the range that TVs have become. But we should move on. They have released a Blade Runner 2049 short film that reveals some information about Jared Leto's contribution to the Replicant technology of 2036. Brad, you wrote about it for slashfilm.com. What do we know?
Yeah, so what's really cool with leading up to Blade Runner 2049 right now is that there's been a lot of, well, not a lot of, but there's been some marketing that has a timeline of key events that have happened between 2019, when the original Blade Runner takes place, and 2049, which is obviously when Blade Runner 2049 takes place. Because there's a whole 30-year gap there that we don't really know what happened with Replicants and the Tyrell Corporation and all that jazz. So if you go to the official Blade Runner website, they actually have like a timeline that you can scroll through that shows you the various things that happened. And this short is something that was put together by Denis Villeneuve in conjunction with a couple other filmmakers to help fill in the gaps a little bit. And so this takes a key moment from 2036, which is when Jared Leto's character, Nyander Wallace, who's this genius scientist, apparently he's blind, seems kind of eccentric, comes into what appears to be a small governing body or whoever is in control of the prohibition of replicants, which is something that was enacted a few years before 2036. And he comes in with a proposal of a new replicant model that he just so happens to have brought with him, which is the Nexus 9, the next evolution in replicants, which he demonstrates can be fully controlled by his voice commands. And even though it has free will, given the choice to kill itself or kill Jared Leto, it chooses to kill itself. So whatever problems were previously had with replicants from the Tyrell Corporation, he seems to have figured out how to create human-like free will replicants who are still safe to use, which is why we find out in 2049 replicants are still around and they are not prohibited as they were in between that time.
This is interesting for a couple reasons. Number one, Ridley Scott has been doing this for the last few movies that he's done. He did this with Prometheus. They had a TED Talk with Guy Pearce's character. They had a short prequel to Alien Covenant, and I know he didn't direct this film, he produced it, but they're doing with this as well. So it seems like this is something that his production company, Scott Free, is doing a lot with his movies. And what you mentioned there is actually interesting because right now there's kind of a debate going on with self-driving cars. I'm not sure if you guys know this, but self-driving cars are insanely safe. More safe than a human driving. But one of the key issues is if something runs out in front of the cars are programmed to basically, swerve off the road and avoid whatever is coming towards them, and at risk to the people inside the car.
Mm.
So that's something that a lot of people are debating. Like, should it be favoring saving something that's in front of the car, outside the car versus in the car? And it's interesting that they're kind of tackling that in a different way in this sci-fi sequel.
Also, just as a side note, the short film it's the first of three, and this one was directed by Luke Scott, who is Ridley Scott's son, who directed the sci-fi thriller Morgan.
And I think one of the other Scotts directed the Alien Covenant prequel video. I'm not 100% sure. Okay, anyways, you can find more on all of these stories on slashfilm.com. If you want to see the Blade Runner short film, go to slashfilm.com. You can find Ben at Ben Pierce on Twitter. You can find Brad at Ethan_Anderton on Twitter. He has a podcast called Go Flix Yourself on iTunes. You can find me at /film on Twitter. As always, send your questions to the mailbag, Peter at slashfilm.com. Leave your name and general geographic location in case we mention it on there. Please go to iTunes, give us a review, especially if you like the show. If you don't like the show, send me an email. Tell me why. Tell me what we could be doing better. And we'll see you tomorrow.